All right, welcome back to another episode of Just Buy Less Coffee, answering the deeper questions of American politics. My name is Troy, aka Keep Troy Blue. With me, as always, is Cathy Cannon, aka Cannon's Fodder. Got a lot going on today. Katie Britt introduces a bill to have the federal government track our pregnancies. Bibi crosses the red line and Biden pauses a shipment of bombs to Israel. How long will that last? Will Biden hold to it? And will the tensions between the U.S. and Israel get worse? Campus protests continue, including a protest at my home campus of U of A where students were tear gassed as the hard left continues to rage against the war in Palestine. The lie of the week is Trump just doing Trump things, Trump rally things. We got a new segment coming on later called Cannon's Fodder of the Week, or I like to call it Smoking the Cannon Tea Leaves. So we'll see how that goes. Cannon's going to make some prognostications this week about some conflicts going on in Europe. Maybe World War III brewing, in case anybody wanted, more
That's
reason,
uplifting stuff,
more reason to feel uplifted about things. And the Portal art installation, it connects Dublin and New York with a lot of mooning and nudity and just bad stuff happening. We'll discuss of
I was gonna say that's one of those Cannon hasn't heard this stories. So
we'll end the show with a little discussion of like the appropriateness of live stream art installations. But first, Cannon, let's shoot the shit a little bit. So tell me a little bit about what your kids taught you. So it's the end of Cannon's school year. Cannon is a teacher. We're going into summer. And I know that you're seniors, you teach seniors, and they are basically bugged out at this point, but they are teaching you a little bit. Last time we had a little bit of an update on the Kendrick Lamar and Drake beef. What else you got, Cannon? So what else did they teach you this week? Your kids?
Yeah, it's my turn, to be fair. I crammed a lot into their brains. I like these ones though, so they're fun. So I'm letting them kind of like be weird. Okay, so in the blur, what I've learned, I got an update on Kendrick and Drake because
I was on pins and needles all week.
Yeah, no, I know it's complicated. So basically, I'll sum it up kind of bullet point style, right? So Drake is a pedo, okay? And he has a secret daughter, apparently, that he won't tell anybody about. Everybody believes this to be true. Also, Drake lost the rap battle is the consensus. Like Kendrick, he may wear the crown. Okay, so Drake is a pedo and has a secret daughter, but even if he's not, so for the some that are willing to like concede maybe he's not, he hangs out with too many teenagers for comfort is where we can all officially land. There was a story. So the kids' TikTok, I always laugh, is so different than like my TikTok. Like they'll say all the time, "Miss, why don't you know this? You're on TikTok." Not your TikTok. Like my TikTok, your TikTok.
You have no idea how different those TikToks are.
Very different TikToks because like they're like, "I found your TikTok. Did you learn anything?" No, because like I just scroll right past you. I'm like, so it's just like class. Wonderful. But
I love that TikTok, they hear you're on TikTok and they think that you're doing like dance videos or some shit. They get all excited. Then they're like, "Oh no, never mind."
And they're like, "Oh no, she's just trying to make people learn." Yep, sort of my jam. But there was a video on TikTok. So somebody, I think that's what they said. Anyway, like his goddaughter or a friend of his goddaughter or one of those. Like I know someone who knows somebody, whatever. But there was a picture of Drake or like a clip video or something of him in a girl's locker room, like a bunch of teenage girls. Like so he's chilling in the locker room. Right, so that's concerning. But like the video was put out defending him, like no, it's not as bad as it looks. He was there giving us an inspirational speech, and we ended up winning the game because of this inspirational Drake speech in the teenage girls' locker room. So they told me this, and I was like, this gives very much Trump at like Miss Teen USA, like.
And yet, we're worried about like trans,
Yeah, so it was those vibes, and I was like, all right, that's good. So that's what Kendrick has to say about Drake. I was like, anything in the other direction, right? Well, Drake says Kendrick beat his wife, okay, and he's short. Apparently, that's also one of the biggest points of contention Drake has for Kendrick is he's short, so he shouldn't be famous. I think. I don't know. That one devolved into a whole other level of conversation that went in many directions, and I like chimed out of and then kind of clued back in a little bit later when it seems to have settled down. Kendrick has also, like, in response to all of this, said something about like he hates his life, he hates the fact that he was born, and he apologized to his kids for them being born. So I think Kendrick's just over it all of it.
Kendrick's
Like,
having a rough couple days, apparently.
really, I think they're all in a play. They're going through some things, so I think they're feeling some feelings. Like, there are doctors that can help. But the last and final bit that I got from all of this is everyone hates Rick Ross for some
Okay.
reason, but I have no further details.
Okay.
Because
Interesting.
they said that, and I was like, but why? And they all just kind of looked. They're like, well, because it's obvious. I was like, but why? So I got no further details on Rick Ross.
Okay.
But yes. So also, okay, so not to leave out, it's the most important bit. Taylor Swift's Eras Tour has picked back up in Europe. It's now Eras 2.0. These are the things you must know. And she has added Tortured Poets Department, like a couple songs from it.
Okay. We should do a thing on the speaking of Taylor Swift, we should do a thing on the Met Gala, which is drawing all kinds of like controversy this year. Because
Yes.
the theme was the Garden of Time, which is
The Garden of Time.
which is actually a short story about like basically proletarian revolution.
Oh,
So I guarantee
okay.
I guarantee they didn't actually read that book before they
I'm gonna
put that
say
theme on.
they are also not reading the room. Like, do they know? Like, people. So there are people just begging for a reign of terror right now. Like,
It's so bad
oh
that there's
boy,
all these like videos of like the Met Gala juxtaposed with Gaza and stuff like that. It's just like
no,
it's
boy,
bad.
oh
It's
boy,
bad. Like
oh no.
total not reading the room, total like out of touch. So yeah, it's bad.
It's just gonna take one little Robespierre at this point, isn't it?
Well, we'll get to this a little bit later. The left of the the hard left of this country is gone. Bye bye. They are they are ready for.
I remember a time when, like, I was considered the far left. You know what I mean?
They
Like,
were
what is
they are
happening?
ready to start whipping out guillotines. Like they're actually like making plans. I'm getting a little nervous about it. But we'll cover that in a little bit. Speaking of being completely out of touch, so Katie Britt has introduced a bill called the Moms Act. It's
Yikes!
like mothers supporting other mothers, blah 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 blah. In this bill is a mandatory federal website called pregnancy.gov. So right there, fucking creepy. But it's ostensibly it's a database of like pregnancy resources, but
Wow.
it's only resources from the pro-life movement. So it's essentially like crisis pregnancy centers and all
Yeah,
these like
shocking.
fake clinics that will like
Mhm.
coerce and lie to women to get them to not get an abortion. Totally, they just lie about like healthcare opportunity, healthcare options for women. It's just they will try to talk women out of getting an abortion,
Yeah.
even if it's the right choice for their particular healthcare situation. So anyway, that's part of it. That's what's on pregnancy.gov. But in order to access it, you have to give over all your information, or at least like it says it will walk you through a series of questions. So it's basically designed to have women give over like sensitive information, including their locations, to the federal government. So it's we got to start. We've talked about not using period tracking apps, getting all that stuff off your phone. This is another one that's definitely like, we don't want the federal government knowing where all the pregnant people are and
Yikes.
monitoring those pregnancies. So
That
it's
is
creepy.
fucking horrifying. I think she's my new candidate for Serena, whatever her name is, Waterford for Handmaid's Tale. I Here's the thing, like, my government teacher brain wants to be like, well, there's equal protection issues if you have to register to use a website that's paid for with tax. But all that aside, I'll point to two things on this one. One, that I love how it's the small government conservatives always pushing for national databases to track periods and
Except for
whatever.
guns, like we can't have
And exactly that. I was like, but we can't register deadly weapons, right? Like, you can buy all the fucking like semi-automatic firing death machines you want. No. Nobody can know that you have those. But I need to know if your 14-year-old's on her period. Like, what the fuck? Why is a 14-year-old's uterus more scary to the federal government than a goddamn or AR-15 or whatever the fuck?
There's gonna be a
I,
dildo registry too soon, I think. But isn't that the like
yeah.
whole like we talked about that with they were like they wanted to start tracking periods for like girls sports and stuff like that. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? So like
Yeah.
they labeled it as like an anti-trans thing. Like we wanted to make sure that we didn't have any trans women
Yeah.
playing trans sports or
But
playing
it's
women's
never
sports.
about
But it's
never
more
about
just
what they
about
say
like,
it's about.
yeah, it was actually just about like tracking periods of which kid is pregnant.
Yeah, just
Yeah,
like overturning Roe versus Wade wasn't about anything but controlling. It's never about what they say it's about. It's
yeah.
never about what they say it's about.
Katie Britt, obviously famously the creepy senator from Alabama who delivered the bizarre melodramatic response to the Biden State of the Union this year
And she
in
sounded
her
like that
kitchen.
announcing this too. Like it's like she still has that breathy, over
Yeah,
dramatic, like,
I'm telling you,
mom,
that's
I
how she
hate this.
talks. Like she doesn't,
It's so fucking weird.
yeah, she wasn't. She's not just like putting on a bad show. That's like actually how she talks. But she
Ugh,
had the like Handmaid's Tale green, and in her, she was standing in her kitchen delivering all this stuff.
I'm telling you,
Um,
man.
but she's bad. Meanwhile, her home state of Alabama is like ground zero for just the most atrocious.
I know.
There's been 3 or 4 healthcare systems that have completely shut down their labor and delivery units. So we're actually not only creating abortion deserts in the South, but now we're officially starting to create, obstetrics deserts in the
Mhm.
South. Like people can't even give birth in the South. It's some of these areas
And didn't she
in a
mention that, like, in
hospital.
announcing the bill? Basically, like, there's, like, healthcare deserts, and our database will help women find access, but it doesn't, because the existence of your fucking database is why there are healthcare desert. I wanna strangle her so
Well,
bad.
it's like
And I say that facetiously, I'm not really gonna kill her, I don't send the FBI to my house.
the bill specifically says that no facility that performs, refers for, induces. It has all this language. Basically,
Yeah.
if you are a facility that has any contact with anybody that gives an abortion anywhere, it will not be in the database. Well, that's called a hospital. Like you don't.
Yeah,
It does.
seriously.
It's not every abortion provider is like a Planned Parenthood or like Dead Kids Are Us or whatever. Like like
Mhm.
hospitals perform abortions because they have to, because because it's healthcare, because it's a regular medical procedure. So all you're doing is you're saying that in your so-called database of like women's healthcare resources, there's not going to be any fucking hospitals. There's not going to be any
Mhm.
actual places to go and give birth, let alone like
Yeah.
now that there's that's why they're shutting down the labor and delivery units,
Mhm.
because if you have a labor and delivery unit, there will be an abortion performed there absolutely has to be, because there will be emergent situations where you have to perform an abortion to save the mother's life.
Yeah.
So that's why they're shutting down, because
Mhm.
they would rather have no labor and delivery unit in these hospitals than have be forced to perform an emergency abortion and have
Yeah.
doctors go to prison. So
I know.
it's
It's like and the other part of it is that they're now just blatantly talking about using government resources for very clearly partisan departments, right? Like
right.
that's not what you're supposed to do with these kind of things, right? But on your topic of like all abortion clinics aren't named, something obvious. Do you want to hear something very Florida?
Yeah.
It'll add just a little bit of levity to this very dystopian conversation. In Tampa, Florida, hand to God, you can look it up on the internet out there in TV or podcast land. There is what I can only assume is it might be a crisis pregnancy center. I've never really looked into it, or an abortion clinic of some nature, but I swear to God, Troy, it's called Exodus Baby.
Oh no.
And
Oh
it's
boy.
so funny on so many levels, right? Because if it is an abortion clinic, it's an Exodus baby. I'm
Oh boy.
sorry. Every now and
That's
again,
bad.
my Floridian comes out, and Exodus baby has made me laugh for years because I can't believe it's a thing. I also cannot believe I've never looked it up, even though I think it's so funny. So I'm googling it right now.
It's probably like
Um,
a crisis pregnancy center. Like
yeah,
we'll read
because
you the book of
maybe
Exodus, and that will help your baby be born.
Exodus baby Tampa. Oh, now it's just called Exodus Women's Center. Okay, somebody clued them in that their
So
name
included that
was
Exodus baby was not the best, not the best name.
perhaps rebrand. But it is obstetrics and gynecologists now. So maybe somebody took it over. Oh, Advent Health acquires Exodus's Women's Center. So a
Okay,
legit medical
so
person
it is an
bought them,
actual
and they
clinic.
changed
Yeah.
the name from Exodus Baby to Exodus.
Reminds me of when I lived in LA, there was like an infant and baby store in our neighborhood, and it was called Sid and Me. But they had
Oh
to change
God,
the name
no,
because it
no.
used to just be called Sid's, which is like not a
Oh
good
no.
not a good name for a baby infant
Oh
store.
no, no, no. But
Even
yeah,
Sid
it
and
is.
Me is a little.
I was gonna say even
Like,
that has a little wait,
I
what
think
again? Like, gotta look twice. You know what I mean?
Sid just has to like suck up his ego and just like let his name be taken off the building because that's just ridiculous.
Yeah, it was funny, yeah,
Nobody's
and
buying
then
cribs from Sid. I'm sorry, not happening.
yeah, oh my god, fucking hell. Okay, I'm putting
Um,
this baby away. Let's get back to the apple pie.
anyway, so this bill, has no chance of passing whatsoever. It's just I think it was sort of just like the Kristi Noem shit. It's just like
Yeah.
these politicians are just so dumb and so like I can't believe the dumb crop of politicians that we have, especially. I mean, there's some dumb Democrats too, but this crop of Republicans is just
Oh, I know.
absolutely like mind-numbingly stupid. That
Yeah,
this
I
would
know,
be
like
her like re-intro to the mainstream after the disaster of the State of the Union response. Her re-intro to the mainstream was to push a bill, which by the way existed already. Marco Rubio's Life Act was basically almost word
course.
for word this same one from it was one of the first things he introduced, I think, in like the 2000s.
Lord.
And it sort of just they went after him for that one too because it was a similar like federal registry type thing.
Yeah, it's fucking ridiculous. I just think it's hilarious because it's like she's coming out loud to say, just to be clear, in case it wasn't obvious, we want to oppress the fuck out of you. I hear you saying we're the better option than Democrat. Just to be clear,
Yeah.
we will oppress you.
Yeah.
Okay. I swear they're so. Oh God.
By the way, Christy, not in the outline, but I guess I'm so obsessed with this Kristi Noem story. She's canceled her book tour. The Amazon site crashed multiple times because they got so many comments. They eventually had to shut down the reviews, so you cannot leave a review on the book. It's been shut down by Amazon. Book tour canceled. Came out that there was more lies in the book, like she claimed to have met like French President Macron never did.
Oh Jesus
So
Christ.
like there's like there's just reshelving his fiction because you can't possibly. The only thing you can believe that's true in that book is that she killed her own fucking puppy because that's the only thing she will stand behind. Like,
And the goat. Don't
and the
forget the
goats.
goat. Her
She
bloodlust is true to core.
she filled the book with lies and then just decided to throw in like the one true story she decided to tell was the story
It's
of her killing her
horrifying.
puppy.
I know, right? Like, what can I tell the truth about? I know the most heinous thing I've ever done. Well, actually, probably not even the most heinous thing she's ever done. It's probably just a fucking Tuesday for her, isn't it? She's a fucking psychopath.
Anyway, so that book tour's canceled. Katie Britt coming back on the scene, trying to exercise the demons of her fucking Gilead appearance during the State of the Union by pitching a pregnancy registry with the federal government.
Just to be clear, that's what the whole thing. God damn it, I hate this people.
Biden announces that we are pausing or holding back a shipment of 3,500 bombs that we're supposed to be sent to Israel. This is the first time that Biden has interrupted a shipment of weapons to Israel that has been approved by Congress. Reasoning being that he believes that the 3,500 bombs, intelligence was that they were going to be used against civilians in Rafah against the backdrop of an investigation revealing that American bombs have been used in potential war crimes in the war against Hamas. So really interesting, like right there, like really interesting, like not getting enough attention, I think, even in the news. It's just like the precedent of that. Because to my knowledge, that's never been a concern of the United States government. Has it? Has there ever been like
well, we usually use our weapons for our own war crimes, to be fair. So
has there been a precedent of like a U.S. administration being like, American weapons have been used in war crimes, therefore, like we are disavowing that the use of that weapon or something like that? I don't remember it.
Not that I can. Well, napalm maybe, but that was again our war crime. Normally we're doing our own war crimes, but this one is, and it kind of goes back to the whole like why people are frustrated that Biden keeps helping Israel up until now. And I kept talking to them about like, there are treaties, there's like laws. He's creating the paper trail he needs. Because is there a precedent? Probably not, because there might be one with Britain and their empire, but we're new to the empire game, like we've only like been top dog empire since what 1990, so for 30
Right.
years. And before that, we were one of two top dog empires, but only for like 50 years, right? We're baby emperors, okay? We're baby emperors, which is why we're bad at it. But luckily, our baby empire is as old as our current president.
He was there for all of it.
He's been there for the whole fucking thing, which is
Oh God, that's so
a
bad.
thing I said. It's a thing I said. That is painfully accurate. I hate
Ugh.
myself.
Biden
Anyhow,
is as old as the
he's
American
as
Empire.
old as the American Empire.
Oh no.
So it's only fitting, I suppose, right? But that's what I think is happening is that he's like
Born
stuck
in the
by.
era of Calvin Coolidge.
We've lost the plot, guys. We lost the plot. No, it's fine. So what I think he's been doing is sticking to the letter of the treaty. While we all know his behind the scenes conversations with Bibi have not been pleasant. Like they legit were not on speaking terms.
I think they hate each other again. I think
Oh,
they
they're
weren't on speaking terms
unfucking
before this happened. So
yeah. So but what I think he's doing is everybody knows and that we're responsible for Israel. And we have been since the Cold War ended, but truthfully, we have been since World War II ended, because that is essentially when the British Empire fell. Officially, I put it at the Suez conflict in the 50s. When we threatened to call in our war debt on the British Empire, which was baller. I'm not gonna lie, baller move, but also now we have a lot of responsibility that we're bad at. So, but the thing about wars since the fucking 7 Years' War, if you want the truth, because that just kind of turned into World War I, which turned into World War II, which turned into the Cold War. And the other thing that I don't think gets the attention it deserves is that World War II, and myself included, I always say the Cold War just is the continuation of World War II. But I think actually what may have happened is that World War II schismed, if you will, to create two budding will start World War II or World War IIIs, because that was also when we created the nation of Israel, which was in large part because after the Holocaust, we were like, well, fuck, Europe still hates Jewish people. There's no getting around. Like, you have to acknowledge that anti-Semitism in Europe to this day is fucking ragingly insane.
Mm-hmm.
Like, Europeans hate Jews the way Americans hate Black people, and it's why Jewish people here are the way that they are, because that's their culture, right? That's what they're grown up being taught. So really the issue of Israel is just, and it's why Germany feels the way they do about protecting Israel too, because it's literally our that, like, they're our mea culpa, like
right.
Centuries of our racism caused this, so let's go cause another problem to fix it. That's what we do. We cause new problems to fix old problems.
Well, the liberal, the liberal German Republic, post World War II has really made it a mandate to sort of look after the state of Israel, just largely
and it's for that reason. And truthfully, the reason that we do as well, and this is one of those pieces of American history that kids don't get taught because it's gross. It's like that we could have saved a lot of those Jewish people if we weren't, so anti-immigration and like xenophobic the way we are as a country of oddly immigrants. Like for a nation of people, none of whom originated here, to be so against people coming here, America's nothing if not ironic, is all I will say on that one. But that's what I think is he's making the paper trail. He abided by the treaty. He met with allies. He gave conditions. He responded to those. He's out loud said this. He's saying it like publicly, getting a lot of attention while still standing by them, like honoring the treaty while giving him these red lines. Like, look, if this happens, then, right? He's letting the UN go in there and make those investigations and stuff, but we're continuing to vote down resolutions that would like help like I think we vetoed the Palestinian statehood or something. And to those who want to know, just a quick sidebar, that's because they don't have a government in place, and we're not going to let it be Hamas. See Napoleon, right? Just like let that be your lesson.
We're going to cover that in a minute. I don't think it was a veto situation though, because it wasn't the Security Council; it was the General Assembly.
Yeah, I mean, I like I said, I've been in senior hell, so
I don't think we can veto those, but I'm sure we voted no.
Yeah, I think that's what I meant.
But it did pass the General Assembly, because I don't think you can I think you can only veto in the Security Council. But yeah.
That might be the case. Like I said, I was just like my knowledge of the news right now, except for like the 4 things I
That
paid
was
attention to, is a headline I saw.
That was a whole fucking thing. The Israeli response to that, shredding the UN Charter on like a little mini shredder on stage and like shredded the UN.
They're a bit dramatic. They're in their dramatic era, if you want the truth. But that's what I think it is that he's trying to have the legal justification to if he needs to leave Israel alone, but also because we don't want a power vacuum there. And the reason we would vote no against the Palestinians, and this is my mini French Revolution fight, right? Like when the Third Estate overthrew the bourgeoisie, when they killed the king and started chopping off heads, when the streets ran red with the blood of the bourgeoisie, right? On the right track, love the energy, but you had no plan. And when you have no plan, your head guy, Robespierre, goes a bit cuckoo bird and ends up getting killed by the very people he liberated. And then in the absence of any semblance of a government, you get Napoleon. Okay.
Yeah.
So the issue here, and I guess the fear, is because nobody knows about Mr. Sinwar, Mr. Hamas crazy man in the tunnels causing all the problems right now, the Netanyahu of Hamas, if you will. Like, he is basically the Robespierre in this situation, if you will. He's the shit stirrer that's kind of like using all of his understanding of Israeli culture and Palestinian culture to pit these groups against each other. He has literally called the Palestinian people necessary casualties. So he doesn't care. He doesn't really care about a Palestinian state. He cares about destroying Israel. But if he gets his way, if the French Revolution, like Israel edition, takes place as it continues to seemingly play out, that is going to leave the door open for what's his name, the guy whose name I can never pronounce, the other guy, the head, Hayani. Hold on, what's his name? You know it.
Iran or
no of Hamas, the other whose name?
Oh, I can never remember his name either.
Yeah. I know it. I just don't know how to say it. It's Hanai,
something like that.
Whatever.
Yeah.
I'm sorry if I said your name wrong, but you suck as well. So whatever. But that's the problem, is that like it's hard for us to right now get behind a Palestinian state because there isn't really I know we're going there, like a Palestinian government to look to. But we'll
get there in a second. But yeah, so anyway, this Biden. So just the question about this is, well, first of all, the GOP drawing distinctions between. Or drawing similarities between what Biden doing, holding back aid that's been approved by Congress, to what Trump was impeached for, which was just technically, I guess, threatening to. I don't even know if he threatened to hold back aid. It was just sort of like implied that he would, to try and get Zelensky to investigate Hunter Biden in Ukraine. So I mean, it's just a kind of a ridiculous comparison. I don't know if you have any thoughts on that? I think somebody filed impeachment articles against Biden for doing that. I can't remember who it was.
I didn't know they'd actually filed them. I knew they were talking about it, but like,
well, it's not going to go anywhere. But yeah.
Oh, I know it won't go anywhere. But to me, that I laughed when I saw that, when they're like, "Oh, that's just what Donald that they impeached Trump for," and I just literally started laughing because I was like, they don't even understand what the impeachment was about. That they're so ardently against. Donald Trump is so innocent of charges they don't even understand. Like, they don't know what he was impeached for. If they think that what Biden did is what Trump did, they don't know what Trump did.
Yeah.
And for people who were screaming, read the transcript, they didn't read the transcript, because I remember very clearly when that happened. My kids were coming in with questions. This was years ago, right? 2020.
Yeah.
It was in the before times, in the long ago, back when I could do stuff like this with the kids. They were asking questions. Well, how do we read the transcript? I was like, well, pull the fucking transcript. So I downloaded and made copies for my kids, the transcript of Trump's call with Zelensky, and we did a close read. I was like, all right, read it, underline, what do you see? And they were like, Miss, this doesn't sound right. I'm like, what doesn't sound right? And I didn't say anything. I literally read and let them discuss. This kind of sounds like a mob boss, their words. And I was like,
yeah.
I mean, if that's what you're getting from the reading, they did tell you to read the transcript. So if your read of the transcript is that, I'm not here to, question
Yeah.
your reading ability. So yeah.
So yeah, slightly different situation, but Biden, and I don't even know if it's a permanent holding back of weapons, and that's kind of the final thing on this is just how much is Biden going to hold to this red line. Last time we talked about the fact that he really had to make a choice here about his legacy and what he was going to do on this Israel situation. I think it's pretty clear now that Netanyahu's going to do well. Who knows? I mean, they haven't launched the full attack on Rafah yet. They have been dropping some bombs. The full invasion hasn't happened. As of a few days ago, they've actually pulled back up to Gaza City in the north because there's been some retaliatory strikes from
Right on the
Hamas.
border, I saw, right?
Yes, from Hamas has sort of been striking back up north, which again, right there. So like you've basically, I thought the reason why we were all the way down in Rafah is because we'd cleared those areas out. So all you're saying is that your military campaign has been a complete failure then, because now
It's because they're in the
you have to go all the way
tunnels.
back up to the border in Gaza City where you started, because now Hamas is attacking there again. So I don't know.
Yeah, no, it's because Hamas is now and has been since the start in the tunnels. And that's why this is so bad, is because all of this coming out now. And this is why America has a little bit more wiggle room to be like the motherfucker, right? Because all along we've been telling them we don't like your strategy, right? Your strategy is to like whatever, right? It's not taking into consideration the safety of. We've been saying all these things out loud and repeatedly. We've been telling them that our intelligence says they're in the tunnels. And they're like, yeah, that's why we have to bomb the tunnels, right? So we were kind of going back and forth with this, but the invasion of Rafah is a big deal because if they don't do it, then like it's kind of the last place that they can get to. Like they've cornered them, right? So to go into Rafah, then they can go into the tunnels and get them. Is the fucking theory that what's his face and his crazies are working with, which we don't know to be true, right? That's just the theory that they're working on, right? But the point that the American government is like, this is a pointless endeavor. Going into Rafah is just going to kill civilians because they're not above ground where your ground assault will be taking place. They're in the tunnels below. So you're going to be laying waste to the city of Rafah, killing civilians, while Hamas is running underneath you underground.
Double back
where, and like you're fucking chasing your tail here, guys. And that's the drawing line, right? Like, you're not listening to us. You're being reckless. You're letting people die. And you look like a fucking idiot that's getting like chased around like it's a cat and mouse game.
Well, the Hamas, the reemergence of Hamas in Gaza City has allowed people like Tony Blinken and others to be like, okay, so no, really, what is your fucking plan? Because you're using a shit ton of our weapons that now we know now we know have been misused. And by the way, they're discovering mass graves and evidence of torture and a lot of just there's going to be a lot of human rights violations that come out over this.
Oh yeah, this is not going to be pretty for Bibi.
They're basically, I think,
the irony is he was worried about bribery charges and he's going to go down for war crimes.
Well, there's this,
bribery.
If we don't intervene, again, we're sort of the only thing that's keeping them afloat. And if we're out, I think he's completely screwed. Now, I don't know what that means for the Israeli people. I think that's they've got to get Netanyahu out of there and basically turn him over to international justice and just move on from this thing, I think. But
but that's hard to do because, like I said, their whole, and that's been part of Hamas's strategy too, because very like Putin, right? He's been using, propaganda. And so Hamas has been using propaganda. And if like the Sinwar guy, he had been in jail for a long time, like in Israel, right? And he's just basically a out for revenge kind of dude. But he speaks Hebrew, right? Like while he was in jail, he's like, how about I learn about my enemy, right? He knows Israeli culture enough to use Israeli culture against the Israeli people. And his goal is to discredit Israel and make the world hate them. Well, you're halfway there, my guy, right? And and that's our concern, is because a power vacuum in the Middle East, not great. So I think that's what I think. And to your point about the kind of weapons, from what I saw, is they're sending no more offensive weapons, but they'll still provide defensive weapons. So like, that's the same thing. Like, here's our paper trail. We're willing to defend the nation of Israel, but we will no longer help you in your military adventures. And that's letter of the treaty kind of thing.
Which I think is smart, because that's defensible. It's like, okay. And that's a good way to maintain the necessary safety of the Israeli state while we transition out of the Netanyahu leadership, is to not be like, okay, you're completely cut off and we're just going to let Hamas take over and kill everybody. but so we're honoring our treaty. Look, we will support the Iron Dome. We will support the defense of Israel. These other nations in Hamas or whatever don't get to just come in and wipe Israel out now. But Israel does it now. Like, you've lost the right to strike. You've lost the right to offensive weapons, to bombs. Like, you don't get any more fucking bombs. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I think
you can defend yourself. We'll help you defend yourself. We're honoring the treaty, but other than that,
yeah, like I think we've reached the point now. What I think Biden is trying to do is he's trying to take their claim that this is retaliatory away from them. Right. Because and because it's hard for us, especially on the world stage, to tell somebody you can't start a war after a terror attack. We started too. All right.
We have no leg to stand on there.
Right.
Too.
So, and that's what I think a lot of people like upset about this all now also kind of don't realize. I'm like, we can say whatever we want on the world stage. That's adorable. Like, they're going to laugh at us if we say that. And I'm not saying laugh at us in oh, it's so embarrassing. And we will lose credibility on the world stage if we boldly say, it's just not okay. Like, fuck you.
Yeah.
Right. Like, that's what the world will say to us. But I think what they're trying to do is, like I said, paper trails. It's CYA, the CYA of American politics, is to show we did support your retaliatory actions. We don't classify your current actions as retaliatory. They seem aggressive and criminal. Fucking you're like an invasion of Rafah, very specifically. We are telling you will accomplish nothing but killing innocent people. If you do that, you are no longer the good guy, right? Like, we basically said, we'll stand by. We might not like the way you've done it, but we support the fact that you had a right to defend yourself. We can no longer call this self-defense. Therefore, we can no longer help you defend yourself, because you are now the bad guy. You are now the aggressor in this war.
Well, I guess that's why I was asking about the historical precedent of that, because it does seem like a good legal move for him to bring up the use of American weapons and potential war crimes abuses. Because I just think that that sends the message internationally that we are concerned about that. We are concerned about international law. And it's a good reasoning. It's a good legal reasoning for Biden to put up, to be like, well, I'm sorry, we can't send you anymore. Because that's my point, is I don't think we've ever really cared about that before. But to have Biden be like, all right, like, I can't have our weapons being used in war crimes abuses, so we're not going to give you any more. I just think
like, we got to remember, like, international law and stuff like this is very post-war era, so it's all very new. So
we never respected it. We shit all over it because we created it. We created it. We shit all over it because we know it doesn't have any enforcement power. We are the enforcement power. We've been the world police for 80 years. And that's Biden's life.
And that's kind of why I joke. I'm like, our war crimes don't count because, what are we going to... It's sort of like how the speaker can't be impeached because they just won't bring up the articles of impeachment for a vote, right? Like, we are that. We are the one office immune from impeachment in the international world, but not for long.
That's why we have a veto. That's why we have veto power. The security, you know what I mean? Like, we set up all these worldwide institutions, but gave ourselves the ability to just completely shit all over them whenever.
Basically. So, but that's the thing. Like I said, like, nobody can say anything to us about our war crimes, but they can say something to us about other people's war crimes, because our job might not be to police ourselves, but it is to police everyone else. And we can't let you act like us. Is basically the line of the international policing world. So the position of international policy to date is only America can do that. You can't act like America. Israel, slow your roll.
So anyway, good.
I mean, true.
Biden establishing might be establishing a precedent for deeper respect for international law. We'll see. But speaking of, I want to go back to the Hamas stuff. So speaking of the river to the sea, sort of one Palestine. What's got me concerned about that is like what you were saying with the Robespierre stuff is with the support of Hamas among the left and the student left and the sort of the more radical anti-Israel, is they keep bringing up this idea of Palestine liberation, which if you want to give them the benefit of the doubt, just means the removal of the state of Israel, or a restoration of a single Palestine, not without, sort of a Israeli occupying colonial power, not necessarily a genocide of any kind of the Jewish people. But my question is, and I just don't think that they've put a whole lot of thought into it, is if you establish this Palestinian state that's essentially going to be like an Arab state, who's the government? Who's in charge? Because if you're saying that Hamas is going to, who are you going to be putting in charge? Because at the moment it would be Hamas. So if your goal is now a Palestinian state, and the best you can come up with is that Hamas is going to be the government, then I hate to break it to you, but you kind of are advocating for the genocide of the Jewish people, or at least like the removal
and are
of,
the side of terrorists,
like
literally.
removal of the Jewish people from the land of Palestine. So now you're talking about like hundreds of thousands of refugees and a brand new humanitarian crisis. So I just think these people have not thought this through, and it speaks to the need for like, where is the Palestinian Republicans, like small R Republicans, like where are the pro-democracy? Where is the pro-democracy movement for the Palestinians? I think it died at around 2002, and it just
with
hasn't.
Yasser Arafat.
It hasn't come back. It hasn't come back.
Yeah,
If these people think that Hamas is going to institute some sort of like secular socialist Palestine, they are out of their fucking minds.
Out of their goddamn mind.
Out of their mind.
They are the Taliban. That's what they are. That, like, you want to know what Hamas running a single Palestinian state run under Hamas would look like. Look to Taliban Afghanistan. That's what it would be. That it would be exactly that.
Yeah.
It would not be. And I don't, like I said, I don't know. It's fucking, I don't know. It frustrates me because I so like. You and me both, right? I've been team Palestine for so long. It feels weird to like have to tell people, no, not that way. Like no, can't go that way. I don't know. It's just
if you wanted to actually help the Palestinians, what you'd be doing right now, and what Biden should be doing, is setting up more peace talks and involving the Palestinian Authority in the West Bank, and coming up with who the leader is going to be, writing a constitution like we've done for countless other countries,
like we did for Japan after we bombed them to oblivion,
and working on this two-state solution. Because again, I think people just haven't thought this one through. I mean, they're hyper focused on Gaza. They're forgetting about the West Bank. They're forgetting about the Palestinian Authority. They're forgetting there's a whole lot of Palestinians that want nothing to do with Hamas.
Yep.
So basically you've adopted this one flavor of Palestinian resistance, which is the most disgusting,
which is the most destructive kind of it. Yeah. And it's the reason they don't have a Palestinian state is because if you remember when Ariel Sharon and Yasser Arafat were working with the Clinton administration back in the late 90s, when they were minutes away, like they were really, really, really close, it was fucking Hamas stirring the shit within the PLO that split from the, like, remember, that's when it fucking, like, the Hamas had existed since 87, but like where they really, the split within Hamas happened was when they were like about to sign their two-state with the 67 borders. They had that deal, and Hamas was like, no, we don't want Israel to have any land at all. And that created a rift in the PLO. The PLO broke further, and you got the most extreme wing of Hamas, which is who's running the Gaza Strip right now. The people in charge of Gaza right now are the reason that it's not a state, because they only wanted a state if Israel wasn't a state.
I mean, you've for the last 20 years let the people who don't want a two-state solution, who want one Palestine, sort of dominate the narrative. And so Hamas doesn't want a two-state solution. You've allowed Netanyahu doesn't want a two-state solution. You've allowed the most extreme voices to come into play here, and it's no fucking secret that Netanyahu and Hamas were working together. I mean, you even have old IDF generals like making. They did an interview in Australia, of all places. Of course, they're not going to show this fucking shit here, but they had IDF generals talking about how Netanyahu propped up Hamas for years. It's because they share a similar goal. They share a similar goal of fighting a two-state solution, not letting the Palestinian Authority have any control over the Palestinians, because that would lead to a successful two-state solution. So they're both, they both have equal evil aims here, but you've let Hamas dominate the narrative for 20 years about one Palestine and getting, abandoning the two-state solution and not really explaining what that means. And then now you've got all these people who are in favor of that, again, who just haven't thought about what that means. Like the well-meaning people who are thinking that we're just going to establish this peaceful Palestinian state and give everybody their land back. That is not happening under Hamas. I hate to break it to you. That's a whole lot of violence and death.
Also, I misspoke. It was Yitzhak Rabin, not Ariel Sharon.
Okay, that's fine. Good
Yeah,
correction.
I just I said it out loud, and then I 5 minutes later realized I said it wrong.
Itzhak Rabin was Ehud Barak was the most liberal one, the most left wing one.
Yeah,
where was Itzhak Rabin? He was less left than Ehud Barak, but still kind of left, wasn't
he? Yeah, he was and that's the only reason it was going. But it was in 93. Well, it started in 93, went through 95 if you take Oslo too. But yeah, it was the tension within the PLO started then. The Hamas stirring the shit within the PLO started then, and we are where we are now because the Oslo Accords fell apart in large part because of Hamas.
Yeah.
Anyway. It's fine though. I just work here.
So anyway, I want to get to just stuff to think about. Just stuff to think about.
Yeah, just try to avoid a Palestinian Napoleon if possible. All right, is all I ask.
I just think we need to get back to a two-state solution and with competent Palestinian leadership, man. I don't know.
Yeah, that should be our challenge. You know what? To all the protesters out there, all of the left out there who feel really strongly about this, for my sake, go read about the Oslo Accords of the 1990s with Clinton, Arafat, and Rabin, right? Go read about how close we were about those deals, because I know they haven't learned those. The history books stop God knows even where, right? And they don't go into this. So if you really want a good understanding, go look at what the negotiations used to be, what the aims used to be, where the diplomacy used to be, where it fell apart. And the way to fix this is to get back to at least there. And I think perhaps that might be happening. We are just not seeing it because of everything else happening.
Yeah.
But anyhow.
Yeah. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
We're gonna skip ahead. We're gonna do live of the week and then Cannon's new segment, Smoking the Tea Leaves.
Oh my god.
But first we're gonna hit that
You're a lying sack of crap. You're a lying, scheming, stinking, nasty sack of liquid crap.
So this week's lie of the week is Donald Trump, as it frequently is wont to be. This was hilarious. This was this weekend, and it started off as kind of funny, and then it just kind of spiraled into a complete fucking disaster. So all weekend we were getting reports about this rally in New Jersey, this Trump rally in New Jersey, and how big the fucking crowd was. And Trump just kept echoing this line that it was 80,000 to 100,000 people at this rally, which is fucking ridiculous. The ridiculous thing was that the local news picked up on that, and they reported that there was 100,000 people at this rally without really questioning it. If you look at the aerial footage, if you look at the cameras and people that were on the ground, it was maybe 30 at the high end. It looked more like 10 to 15,000 people, and then people started to leave halfway through the speech. And it got even smaller. But to say that it was 80,000 people, that's a stadium. 100,000 people, that's Michigan Stadium. That's like the Penn State Stadium. That's huge. Trump did not fill a stadium at this New Jersey beach. It's New Jersey.
Nor
boardwalk.
would it fit right on the boardwalk.
I think the capacity is 30,000 people for this boardwalk. But then the other hilarious thing was that this picture of a beach scene with a bunch of people started circulating, and Roger Stone was one of the original ones that started circulating it. I don't think he originated it, but his version went the most viral of this huge crowd of people at the beach that he said was there to see Donald Trump speak. And the big line was oh, look at the crowd that Trump was able to draw in blue New Jersey. But the picture that they used, if you do a reverse Google image search on it, the picture that they used was from a Rod Stewart concert in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil from 1994. And if you look at the picture, it's very, very obviously not Wildwood, New Jersey. It is not the boardwalk at Wildwood, New Jersey. It is very clearly Rio.
Oh, boy.
Not the least of which because you have these enormous sort of tropical mountains on the beach, which you don't really have anything like that in New Jersey. So it's pretty funny that they tried to spin this this Rod Stewart concert from 1994 became this Trump rally, and Rod Stewart started trending on Twitter because of that.
And everyone thought he was dead. Probably, actually, is he dead? I don't even know.
Stewart? No, I think he's still alive.
You know what this reminds me of? This is an old school 90s era Simpsons reference. Okay. I think it's season 2 of The Simpsons. It reminds me of when Bart had to like get a certain grade to go to Krusty Land or whatever, and he got a D on his report card. So he tried to change it to an A, and it was like really obvious. And Homer says to him, "A D turns into a B so easily, bud. You got greedy. That's why you got caught." Like 80,000 people. Like if you're going to lie about the size of your crowd, you don't say 80,000 people are on the boardwalk. Like you say, what's the capacity of the boardwalk? And then say it's like that. Say we hit capacity if you don't know. And even then we know it's not true because we saw how empty it was. Like 80,000 is just ridiculous. It's like saying I have $1 million bajillion dollars. I'm sure you do, Donnie. I'm sure your bajillions are happy.
Well, if you believe Stormy Daniels, he lies about the size of a lot of things. But the rally itself was also a little bizarre. At one point, he started like praising Hannibal Lecter. Like,
Silence of the Lambs. Has anyone ever seen The Silence of the Lambs? The late great Hannibal Lecter is a wonderful man.
The fuck is he talking about?
Would have
a late great Hannibal.
Remember the last scene? Excuse me, I'm about to have a friend for dinner. As this poor doctor walked by. I'm about to have a friend for dinner, but Hannibal Lecter. Congratulations, the late great Hannibal Lecter.
What the fuck is he talking? Like,
hold on.
Give it the benefit of the doubt. Was he trying to say that? Like, I mean, even Anthony Hopkins is still alive. Like, he's not. What the fuck is he talking about?
Here, I don't know. I can't answer that. But here's a thing that I don't know if everybody has noticed, but I jumped right out at me. Did you remember the last scene where he says, "I'm having a friend for dinner," right as a doctor walked by? He chuckled at the end of A Silence of the Lambs. Like, The Silence of the Lambs was not a comedy, sir. Nobody was supposed to walk out of that theater watching that last scene with this scary ass fucking criminal psychopath free to go continue eating people and say, "Ha, how funny." No, that was not the moral of the story, Donnie. Also, the late great Hannibal Lecter.
Yeah, the late great Hannibal Lecter. I'm not really sure.
I'm concerned that he thinks that was like a how-to guide. Like, I'm concerned about where he sees his heroes.
Silence of the Lamb. Has anyone ever seen
Yeah, just weird. Has anyone seen Silence of the Lamb?
Do it again. Let's see if we can catch his little giggle at the end. Like,
Silence of the Lamb. Has anyone ever
of the
seen
Lamb.
Silence of
Singular.
the Lamb?
Yeah.
The late great Hannibal Lecter is a wonderful man. He oftentimes would have a friend for dinner. Remember the last scene?
This is probably about the time when people started
leaving.
leaving.
Friend for dinner as this poor doctor walked by.
See, he's laughing.
Have a friend for dinner, but Hannibal Lecter. Congratulations, the late great
laughing.
Hannibal Lecter. We have people that are being released into our country that we don't want in our country.
Like, what the fuck? Okay, so it's a
Yeah.
immigration reference. He also did the snake again. His famous like short story about the woman bitten by the snake.
I don't know if I know that one. I mean, I'm all right going my whole life without knowing it, but like,
it's this thing. He started doing it in 2016. It's this short story allegory about a woman who takes a sick snake into her home and takes care of it and resuscitates it back to life. And then the snake bites her and kills her. And as she's dying, she's like, "Why would you bite me? I took care of you." And then the snake is basically like, "Oh, you stupid woman. Like, I'm still a snake." But anyway, he uses this allegory of like, trying to, it's this horrific sort of like fascistic allegory of like, we don't want to take in the immigrants because they're going to turn around and bite us.
They're going to do to us what we did to the people we found here. That's the fear.
He has this weird obsession with that story, the snake. Like he reads it at like every other, and he doesn't have it. It's like a poem almost. It's like 3 paragraphs long.
No,
but he doesn't have it memorized yet, even though he's been saying it for like 8 years. So he has the little like paper of it, and he'll whip out his like, "Does anybody want to hear the snake?" And everybody will cheer, and he'll whip out a little paper and he'll read the poem about the snake.
Yeah, I think I know what you're talking about now. It's actually I might be remembering this wrong because how things bleed together in my brain, but I honestly want to say that Mary Trump mentioned something about that in her book about how it was like a thing his dad, like Fred Trump, used to like put in him about, and like how he used to tell like Don Jr. and Eric, like, never trust anybody, right? Like,
I mean, it's
Yeah.
It's not an inspiring story. It's a story you tell
no,
when you
no,
basically want to
exactly.
try and convince people that they shouldn't trust anybody, right? Like it's a
Yeah,
don't trust
exactly.
anybody story. Yeah.
But yeah, like I think he grew up being told that. And like there's one part in the book I remember distinctly that he asked Don Jr. once, "Do you trust me?" And he's like, "Yeah, Dad, of course I trust you." He goes, "You failed, right? You're not supposed to
Yeah.
trust anybody." And I was like, you told your kid he can't trust. Like, that's fucking psychotic. Like, can you imagine ever saying to Emery, "Oh, you shouldn't trust me"?
No, no.
Oh my God. This is what I'm saying. They're just deeply broken people at this point.
Fred Trump broke him. And then is this
I
the
love these Saturday evenings.
Yeah.
Is there anything better than a Trump rally?
So many things.
He goes after the boss here.
If some of these wackos came along, you know, these liberal singers said, actually vote for me. You know, they all vote for me. They say, oh, Trump, I don't know. You know, like Bruce Springsteen. We have a much bigger crowd than Bruce Springsteen, right?
Hitting Bruce Springsteen while giving a rally in New Jersey. So that's going to really win
gonna go over
the hearts and minds.
Yeah. Like across the street is Philadelphia and they have feelings.
Yeah.
That's funny. We actually had a whole conversation about Jersey today because we found out one of my kids was from Jersey. So I was just like, does your grandma have a meatball recipe? He's like, killer. I'm like, I knew it.
Yeah, we knew it. Donald Trump and Roger Stone and others claiming that Trump's rally at the Boardwalk in Wildwood, New Jersey featured 100,000 people. And by the way, special like shameful mention to the local ABC News affiliate and other seemingly legitimate news sources for repeating the 100,000 people in attendance line without questioning it. Journalistic malpractice.
You're a lying sack of crap. You're a lying, scheming, stinking, nasty sack of liquid crap.
All right, Cannon, we got time for this. Let's get on to your new segment, Cannon's Fodder of the Week. Cannon smokes the tea leaves. Tell me a little bit about what's going on in Europe. You've got some news about some Russian sabotage that you think might lead to like all-out war. Tell me a little about it.
I don't know. I'm not here saying it could. Well, okay, maybe I am saying it could lead to all-out war. Okay, so Russia is still fighting a war with Ukraine. World. I feel like it's gotten lost ever since Israel and Gaza kicked off. I don't feel like anyone's paying attention to Ukraine anymore. But there were also mass graves in Ukraine. I'll remind everybody. Putin is doing to the Ukrainian people what Netanyahu is doing to the Palestinian people. You should care about both of these things. I'm just throwing that out there to the world. But Russia is causing a lot of trouble. Like, not just with Ukraine. And that's, I think, what needs to get a little bit more attention here, because there have been reports of, like, we know Putin is unhappy that, you know, NATO is considering Ukraine and that NATO expanded and that, I think, was it Sweden in? I think was the one that they let in? I can't even remember.
Yeah, Sweden and Finland are both now in.
Sweden and Finland. I thought it was one or the other. I guess it's both. That's easier. But there have been stories now that he's going after Ukrainian-linked like things, but in other countries. So there was like the UK government found intelligence that he was going to like burn down some Ukrainian warehouse that was in the United Kingdom. Germany got intelligence that they'd been hacking into their railway signals and jamming up GPS systems in Germany. There is reports out of the UK. What was it? James Bond's thing. M6. Is that what it is?
MI5 or MI6. Yeah.
MI5. There we go.
Yeah,
there we go.
MI6,
Right about.
Yeah.
Like Russian military intelligence officers are like hiding in Sussex and are like doing all sorts of espionage, and like they found Bulgarian nationalists that were like all sorts of shit, right? So like basically Putin is pulling some old Cold War era bullshit out, and he's going through Europe and stirring up trouble because he's mad at the United Kingdom and Germany specifically for supporting Ukraine, right? So all I can say is I would pay some attention to Europe again. I know we're all upset about Israel and Palestine. We're all very upset. It's all very serious. I'm not trying to discount this in any way, but perhaps put one eye back on Russia, because they are legitimately stirring the shit of, like, Putin is very 1939 Adolf Hitler, or 1936 Adolf Hitler, right? Like just strolling into Austria, like that's some pretty farmland, you know, like It's just kidding. It's remember how I said nobody send your uncle to Serbia, all right? But Putin's got Bulgarians in the UK. So that's just as bad.
You're telling me this now, and I'm moving to Europe in like 4 months.
I was like, okay, like that was actually part of this. I was like, perhaps Troy, you might want to consider slowing that one down, because I understand fleeing one vicious hellscape, but you might be fleeing right into World War III.
Well, if you're right, I get to play this new jingle that I made for you. Ladies
You made a
and
jingle already?
gentlemen,
Oh.
Cathy called it.
Make it stop. Why? First of all, when did this happen? How did this happen? And also stop. That sounds like a dying goat. What are you doing to me here?
Dumb
Stop.
motherfuckers.
Oh God. But
That's just a prototype. That probably will be the final one. But I wanted to make you a Cathy called it jingle because that'd be fun.
Fine. I guess that's fine. But all I know is that there are Russian spies in the UK. They're trying to blow up Ukrainian linked businesses in the UK, and they're spying on German railway systems. And the railway like here's what I'll say. The Nazis built those railway systems. Germans are proud of them. Okay. I'm trying to be funny here. But so all I'm saying is
well, how are they getting away with all this crap? Like, I guess we're not. I guess they're not dependent as much on. The big thing with Germany was that they were completely dependent on Russian oil for so long that they kind of let
transitions to green energy, so they don't need them anymore.
Yeah, well, they kind of let Russia get away with whatever because they needed that oil. But I guess now they collectively went like, okay, we're fine with $10 a gallon for gas until we get that green energy going. But
yeah, well, and they also have a public transit system.
Yeah, they're like, who needs a car?
Yeah, exactly. So it's kind of that, but it's just, I just need us to pay attention to Russia again. Is all. Let's just not forget how crazy Putin, because Putin's a psycho, man. And actually, truthfully, here's how it happened. Like, how are they getting away with it? How are they able to pull all of this off? Because remember how I can't remember how long ago, but remember Russia just kind of stopped caring about space for a while. And there was a whole space race for a while. We got to the moon and they were just sort of over it. And they had the space station up there, but the International Space Station. But it was Russia's space program was basically attached for Americans, right? So the Russian space program, right. But they essentially were just like a cab service. We would just send our people over there and they would take them up to, and that was basically it.
That was during the reboot when we decided we in Russia were going to be friends again.
Right. When we gave it a good college try there.
Give it
but what I think they were doing is they used that window because remember, we're expanding the internet, expanding telecommunications networks. So they were friendly with us for that. And now I think they're using that. They're very much like the best friend that gets your secrets and then uses them against you to steal your boyfriend. That's what Russia is. That's what Putin is. And they're trying to steal Europe's boyfriend. Which in this case, I guess, is Ukraine. Europe wants to date Ukraine and Russia wants Ukraine back.
I guess
right? And they were together for a really long time. So I'm speaking teenagers, but it is. So
Ukraine has spent way too much time flirting with Europe, and
because Ukraine is their position is we are never ever ever getting back together.
Oh boy, you see how you did. I see what you did there. You tied in the Taylor Swift thing.
I did. I was like, so Ukraine doesn't want to get back together with Russia. Russia
I didn't realize Ukraine was so sexy. You have basically
Ukraine. That's actually. Have you seen Ukrainian women?
Well, yeah, but yeah. Europe and Russia both trying to fuck Ukraine. It's an elite situation.
I mean, you made it crude. I had them being boyfriends and girlfriends, but fine, make it dirty.
What do you think boys and girls do when they?
I don't know. They love each other very much, and they hug really, really tight.
I know that you've been out of the game for a while, Cathy, but
my stork brought them a baby, Troy. Come on.
I know you're back in stork mode. They hug really hard. No, but you know what's interesting is that Netanyahu has become such a maniac and a psychopath that we forgot
about Putin trying to conquer Europe.
Patently, I think, worse psychopath, to be honest with you. But
yeah, and not to be flippant here, but of these two wars, one of them going south is worse than the other one going south for the world.
I would agree with that. Yeah.
And I'm not saying this to diminish any suffering anywhere. It's all terrible. But Israel winning their war will have far fewer global ramifications than Russia winning their war. is all.
Well, especially if, like you say, they're running around Europe, like sabotaging things. Like,
Yeah,
it
and
means
like
they're
all I'm
prepping for
saying
something.
is the last time, please recall that Germany, the United Kingdom, and Russia had a pissing contest in Europe. It did not end well for the world.
Yeah.
So the teams are
Yeah.
a little different this time. I'm not gonna lie. Like Russia and United Kingdom were on one team last time. We've definitely, we've got a new boyfriend in Germany, right? So we like our new boyfriend better and their high speed, clean energy trains. But
I
Putin
think
still
you're just
hates.
trying to convince me not to move to Europe. I think this is all a big ploy.
I mean, you do you, boo boo. I'm just telling you. There's like Bulgarians in the UK spying on Ukrainian warehouses and trying to set them on fire. You take that information what you will, okay? Like, keep in mind, I have family over there. My whole fucking family's over there. This is horrifying to me. So
Yeah. Yeah.
So.
Well, anyway, Cannon smokes the tea leaves. Cannon's fodder of the week. Interesting. Thank you for that. Thank you for that update, Cathy.
Yeah, I'll be
Cannon.
following this one. Don't worry about it. We'll be following this one.
I wanted to do this portal art thing in Dublin and New York. Maybe we'll save that to next time. The long and short of it is they've installed this art installation that's basically a giant live feed 24 hours a day. On one side, it's for people in Dublin to look at people in Midtown Manhattan and vice versa. There's one in Midtown Manhattan where you can look at people in Dublin. So they call it the portal between Dublin and New York, and a lot of cool stuff has happened. Like there's been a lot of like sort of warm wishes and greetings and performances and dances and all this stuff. There's been people who have like family members, like there's famously like these two sisters. One of them lives in Irish sisters. One lives in Dublin. One lives in New York, and they famously like say hi to each other every day through the portal. It's pretty cute.
So it's just like a permanent FaceTime?
Basically, it's a giant permanent. I don't even know if it's permanent, but it's a giant like FaceTime thing where you can just walk up and you're on camera and you can wave at the other people on camera.
Interesting.
There's of course been some inappropriate shit. Like there's been a lot of like flashing and mooning and
I would expect nothing less from.
I'm surprised there hasn't just been full on like people getting it on and on camera. But
like the people at the blanket in New York, right?
Yeah. But there's also been some really bad stuff. Like someone in Dublin held up because you can see where the camera is. You can like put your phone like right up to the camera, so it's all they see. So somebody in Dublin put up a picture of the Twin Towers on fire, like right into the camera. And then somebody in New York put up like pictures of like potatoes and stuff like that. So it's gotten a little out of hand.
This is what I'm telling you, man. Thomas Hobbes was onto something about human beings being disgusting. That's all I'll say.
Well, I just think, the point I wanted to make with this was just that you put this thing in two of like the worst place. Like it's almost dystopian in its nature, because I know where it is in Dublin. I haven't been to the Flatiron District in Manhattan, so I don't really know what that area is like, but it is Midtown Manhattan. I mean, it's,
yeah.
Predictably, it's an incredibly busy, active area. Same in Dublin. It's on O'Connell Street in Dublin. I have been there. There's nothing there but like a transit hub for people who are commuting to work. So essentially you put this thing right smack dab in the middle of like capitalist hell, where people in both cities are basically just like commuting to work past this thing. They're probably in bad moods. Not to mention, it's like they're both like heavily tourist populated areas, and tourists are always douchebags. So I don't know. You couldn't have put this thing like on a park bench, you know what I mean, or like by a lake. You just see people like actually like being on their best behavior,
like on the Charles River in Boston with the little Swanee boats. That would have been pretty.
You could have put it on a park bench in both places. Although I guess the chances of people having sex on camera would have been heightened in that case. But I don't know. It just seems a little dystopian to put it like right in the middle of like of everybody's commute, and everybody's grumpy. You're just gonna.
It feels a little weird in general. I'm not gonna lie, but like, I mean, cool in concept, but also like, weird, just weird.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Anyway, portal art installation, Dublin and New York. We'll see how it goes. Like I said, there has been a lot of positive stuff too, but who knows? Cool. Thank you, Cathy, for a great conversation. We're going to wrap it up here. Subscribe to our Patreon, patreon.com/justbuylesscoffee. Subscribe, $5 a month. Get access to deep dive content, behind the scenes, pre-show content, exclusive guest interviews, get a little bit more in depth with us. If you are listening to the regular broadcasts on the audio podcast directories, Apple, Google, Spotify, YouTube Music, Podchaser, Make sure you are clicking the download button, download the episode to your local device. Download numbers are how we are ranked with other news and political podcasts. And leave us reviews. Leave us a review if you've listened to our show like 3 full episodes or something, you can leave reviews. I'm not sure how that works, but anyway, if you can leave a review, leave a review. And if you want to see the video content of the regular episode, we are on YouTube. We have a YouTube channel, Just Buy Less Coffee. You can see our pretty mugs for the regular episodes. Thank you, Cathy. Thanks everybody for joining us today, and we will see everybody next time. You've been listening to Just Buy Less Coffee, answering the deeper questions of American politics, featuring Troy Matthews at Keep Troy Blue and Cathy Cannon at Cannon's Fodder. Follow us on TikTok, Instagram, Threads, and X. All opinions are our own.